We're going to cover today, reaching today's car buyers. It's obviously shifted on where people are spending time. We see dealers responding, obviously, but it is kind of crazy where you can put your money, how you can put your money, and we see a lot of ad waste going out there. So we want to make sure that we're kind of doubling in on what's working across the country as we get back into, our levels of inventory rising and needing to sell those cars in the cycles. Pros and cons of today's top channels, right? What's going on out there and what's working, what's not, right? The roadmap that converts. Over 91% of auto shoppers. It's really about reach at this point. TV, radio, amazing mediums. Unfortunately, people are leaving in droves across a lot of that, and that makes it harder for us to advertise. It was pretty simple with 4 core mediums before. Now there's hundreds and hundreds of choices. Where do we start putting our money? And we're going to talk about how to build your full funnel framework so you can get maximum success in the fastest time possible. These are things you could do in-house. You could work with an agency. Or you obviously can talk to us at the end if you want to chat more about products and services we may offer. But we're here today to talk about what's working out there. That's really what we want to go on to. So in order to sell cars, we actually have to talk to people. In order to reach people, we have to know where they're hanging out. That's the first lesson of advertising 101. It doesn't matter. Over years, things will shift again. There'll be a new TikTok that comes. There'll be a new Facebook that comes. We have to understand, a couple core things. First, can I reach them locally, right? Are they around my dealership? We're still not seeing most car dealers sell nationally at scale, right? We're seeing a lot of local, zip code, radius, DMA in some of the smaller markets or bigger markets where you want to be targeting. But we've got to be able to reach local and deploy our assets locally. So our OEM offers, our inventory, our wide buys, our messaging, all that has to be in there. So we're trying to talk today about where people have kind of shifted their attention to. And as you can see here, traditional versus digital. This has been going on for a while. This shouldn't shock you. Obviously, if I took a raise of hand right now, I'd probably think that most of you guys have cut the cord at this point. You're using, streaming audio, streaming video in a lot of ways, less about, the in-dash car radio anymore, less about the, physical TV in general. But that's what we're seeing across there. The data, this is coming from the data online as well. So you can see digital still on the climb here, traditional on the decline. So we want to pay attention to that because obviously if people are shifting where they're spending time. But again, if you have the budget, traditional still works, right? It's expensive and for what we've seen, it requires a large reach in a lot of ways. And so we want to be able to have some alternative choices as we look out there. And really, when we look at this, obviously the emerging of digital, the Googles, the YouTubes, even going back to obviously the MySpace days. If you're old enough to remember, it was some of the best times. You can mix your music onto your page. You could have a lot of fun with it. It was a disaster though. Nothing was standardized. It was all over the place. But it was a good attempt, really, to get out there and start socializing things. And really, the shift has come on from YouTube coming to life and Twitter and Netflix and all these other areas that have started really bubbling up and captivating consumers and moving them into new areas. So as these consumers shift, we've got to pay attention. We've got to understand where we can potentially reach them organically, or reach them through a paid strategy that can help us move the products and services that we have. So what I'd love you to do real fast is to pop out your phone. If you're an iPhone user, pop out your phone. If you're an Android user, pop it out. I would love for you to open that up. We're going to check out our screen time for a second. I'd love for you guys to go in and, you're going to write in, if you don't mind, on here some of this, but we want to write in our daily screen time into the chat. If you go in here, go to settings, screen time, see all activity on iPhone, and settings, digital well-being on Android. One tip, if you're on a iPhone, there you could also have that all your devices on there. So just choose your phone. But how much time's being spent right now consuming on your mobile phone? I'm going to go in here. I've actually really been working hard to not go on this as much, but I'm going to type in settings here with you guys, go down to screen time, and I've got my average daily right now is 2 hours, 37 minutes, down 30% from last week. But you could also check on here, things like what apps are you doing? See all activity. What are the main categories you're going to, right? And what I want you to think about first is you're a consumer like anybody else. You're probably more of a sophisticated consumer in a lot of ways too. But it shouldn't surprise you that a typical consumer is spending a ton of time on mobile apps right now. They're in applications like, Messages, which quite frankly is a form of social media, right? They're chatting back and forth with people. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. TikTok's obviously taking over a lot of our time. I see a lot of you guys right now, average daily 4 hours, 5 hours. And I know if you're on this, you guys all have jobs, right? So pushing 7 hours. Yeah, Alex, oh my gosh, that's kind of crazy when you look at it, right? And Alex is a great performance manager for Dealers United here. And I know she's probably checking ads and doing a lot of things, but also keeping in touch with our customers and going from there. But the fact is, we're using it. And so are our consumers, and probably even more on the consumer side, right? There's a lot of people that are sitting there killing time, either in your waiting room, they're sitting and killing time at home. The double screen is a real thing, right? We're watching TV, we're on our phones at the same time. So we can all put ourselves in, if you think about it, how we've changed our behavior since the phone, the invention of the smartphone. And where we're kind of doing our research. And again, if you think about it, nothing's a linear path anymore. Nothing is sitting there, just saying, okay, I want to, order something. Even with that, I'm going on Uber Eats, or I go over to DoorDash, or I go directly to a site now. There's all sorts of ways I could do that, and I can get distracted along the way, right? So the fact is, we know that people are captive on this. And so if you're around 4 hours and 4 hours or so, you're probably in the mix of where most people are, right? But this is shocking. 224 minutes a day, split between 18 different apps normally when you're looking at this. So we're changing, we're context switching, we're doing jobs, I'll call it, right? And that could be, some of the jobs could just be checking in with our kids, or checking in with, what's going on with their soccer practice on an app, right? All the way over to, just trying to kill some time and have passive time together. So in-market shoppers, obviously, they're part of the consumer base. So wherever people are spending time, there's in-market shoppers in there. Again, the endemic sites do a fantastic job, right? Because they have the inventory. People want to shop inventory. How do we go beyond that, right? And you got to remember, those companies are also getting a lot of their data from platforms like Facebook and Google and Twitter and other areas of driving traffic to that, controlling that consumer experience. So we have the ability, obviously, to tie into here. And we see dealers doing a phenomenal job. I'll call it checking the box on Facebook right now. A lot of dealers, pretty much all of them, if you're not on Facebook at this point, doing paid ads. Again, marketplace removal, official full removal on January 30th really is going to help with this. We removed marketplace as a strategy over a year ago because it just was not something that we knew Facebook was moving to. We were advised to move away from it. And really, it's a pay to play at this point. Let's face it, if you want to get results out of these, organic reach is not existent. You have to pay to play on all these different platforms. There's a gamble around it. And again, there's one type of ads, inventory ads, we'll talk about here today, that go across a lot of things, but there's a lot more you could do with these areas. And remember, the power of video is going to really be critical here. And what's great about dealerships is, for years, you've produced video for TV, right? We just have to change the way we produce some of this stuff, and really your stories can come to life and be distributed out in ways in general. But ultimately, you're probably feeling some pain out there. We all are. One of the first things is cookies, right? So when we look at this, sorry, I just accidentally fat fingered my keyboard here. When we're looking at cookies, what powers the internet today, right? This is what Google uses, what Facebook is used. If you use the Facebook Pixel, if you know what that is, or if you use, Google Analytics and other areas, they're leveraging cookie data, things that we drop onto a computer that tells us about that user. If they've been to our site, haven't been to our site, we're able to read those things and take action from an advertising standpoint, store things on there about you. And so, the unfortunate part is, the internet has not been regulated since it's been invented, quite frankly. And now the regulators are coming down hard over these next couple of years. And it's already started. And not only the regulators, you have people like, the Tim Cook from Apple, the CEO, scared to go to jail. I will just plain and simply, they've taken a stance on, we're going to be privacy centered. So they're driving a lot of this. And since you can't get to Facebook realistically without a mobile phone, and primarily an iPhone, they're controlling a lot of that. So 50% of signal has been disappeared over the last couple of months here with their new iOS updates. And it's going to get even harder with email tracking and other things that are going to be happening here with iOS 17 releasing. So, when you look at this, what that causes us to do is kind of like we're starting to lose measurement. We're not knowing what's working because we're losing some signal, and people are trying to model it out. I can argue that I would argue that 9 out of 10 dealerships that I audit don't have the proper analytical setup anyway to really truly measure what is working or not. But the fact is we are losing some of that, and the advertisers and the marketing agencies are losing this. And so they're like, oh, I can't rely on GA data as much as I used to make decisions. And then all of these other tools and stuff that they're buying, they're kind of guessing in a lot of ways, right? So it leaves us back to spray and pray. Like, I think we should just put some money here. I think we should just put money here. You know, we go back to things like direct mail and say, okay, let's just hit the direct mail and saturate it everywhere, which is fine. These are good tactics, but they're expensive as well. So ultimately, you know, what we're looking at is it should be nice to, you know, ultimately put $10 in, get $100 out. And that's the name of the game with advertising. It's always been about that, is how can I make sure that I'm not gambling and burning my money to the ground, but I'm putting true investments in and we're getting money out. And, you know, it's going to be increasingly difficult with things that are happening to get to that, you know, that style of measurement. And at the end of the day, we can never say that a specific medium sold a vehicle. Anybody that says that, I think is completely, you know, out of their mind. And again, as a consumer, I don't use one medium to ever buy anything, even food choices. I'm looking at Google reviews. I'm looking at, you know, Uber Eats. I'm looking at this. I'm looking at that. I might be even texting a friend. I'm asking my wife for advice. There's a lot of decisions just to figure out where I'm going to eat tonight, right? Let alone buy a car. I mean, don't think that that's one entry point. Google's going to get all of it. Yes, Google's always going to take credit. They're going to be a master part of the funnel, but there's no way that they're creating all of the car sales that happen. It happened because people became aware of you somewhere else. And we know for a fact that TV powered a lot of Google searches. You know, you see something on TV, you go type it in on Google, Google still takes the credit. You can never measure TV the way that you really should be able to. And that's starting to happen again with some of the other mediums that are out there. So real quick poll here. Have you guys noticed any way a decrease of leads since 2023? So far? Are you starting to see your lead volume starting to decrease in a lot of ways? We'll talk a little bit about why, if it is happening to you, why that could be happening in general. And Linda, I'm going to answer some questions while you guys are taking it. Linda asks here, are Facebook ads results going to take a huge hit when cookies go away? They already are starting to. Especially if you watch and follow what's happening in e-commerce, right? E-commerce used to put $1 in and get $12 or $13 out for every dollar they put in. And, you know, because they were so reliant on adding to a shopping cart and identifying that user and moving through a lot of anonymous traffic, it really relied heavy on that. They've seen a huge hit. Now they're getting 1 to 3, 1 to 4, if they're lucky, sometimes 1 to 1. Many VCs have backed down their complete spend and overhaul spend. And some of this just because they can't tell if it's working. Now, the fact is it still works. I could tell you that all of these mediums still work with or without signal for them to get back. It's just what our tolerance is, our risk tolerance level is on some of this. So I'll end the poll. I'll share it. We're a big fan of sharing here. I have 68% say yes, 18% said no, 14% said not sure. The fact is, guys, is it may or may not be volume, but obviously there's a lot of things that go into this. You know, cars are starting to come back on the lots. We have more inventory selection. You'll get more leads eventually, right? But it is coming down that, you know, people aren't giving up their information as much as they were. We're not able to, you know, just grab information. People that are using like tools like dark IP lookups right now are at major risk coming up here in the next couple of months of everything that's coming down regulatory. So again, what I just want to caution everybody in the auto industry, particularly with right now, is don't chase some of the black hat methods that can get you short-term wins. You can get some short-term wins, but you might penalize yourself long-term for some of that, especially building too many business processes. I'll stop sharing on this in a sec. So let's talk about a little bit about, you know, some of the things that where you can find traditional digital, we'll call it, right? What are now becoming like the traditional outlets. And like I said before, it was pretty simple. We had 4 major mediums on here. And think about in the 1950s, it was really, really easy. You had 3 TV stations, ABC, NBC, CBS. You want to get your message out, all you had to do is literally go on those 3 stations. Everybody was locked in on the baseball game. It was going to be on all 3 or one of those 3. And you could just roadblock that all day long, right? And so brands at that time had an unfair advantage that knew how to go on that. They would buy these spots and they would scale their businesses extremely fast doing that. It's gotten harder over time, right? So instead of 4 mediums, core mediums. Now we have hundreds and hundreds of mediums. These are just a couple of them that are choices that you can use. Again, you got to start figuring out where your shoppers are, where they're going to be, where your local market's hanging out. Could also be local, groups and sites and other things. There's lots of different areas. But then also, where can we reach them consistently and make sure they're engaging with us? And that's where I think algorithms really come in. And that's the beauty of taking some of this traditional digital. It's taking the best of traditional, using that reach and frequency and getting out in front of them, but being able to get some digital signals that can tell, maybe not us, but maybe the machines that are powering the signals to work better, right? So ultimately, what we're looking at right now is obviously online is King Kong. That's where people are spending their time. They're getting their research. They're constantly, looking and seeking information. I would say that right now we're kind of in there's just probably too much. We're swimming in information, right? So how do we get out of that noise? How do we take control of it? And ultimately, how do we get back to what we did in the 70s or 80s, where we become the person, the proven person that they choose just to come in and have a conversation with? Because when we let those guards down and we get people in the dealerships, we know how to help the consumer, right? And that's ultimately what I think all of us want to do, is just work more times helping the consumer. So we got to break down a lot of the barriers. We got to build that trust up. We got to get them in front of us. But the good news is most of what we've found is automotive dealers that are having high success have been around for a while. They've got really great, local confidence built up. The market knows who they are. We just need to remind them and make sure that they're coming back to, especially I would say right now during the EV launches, when it's up in the air. We got all these new car manufacturers coming in. We have direct to consumer trying to compete against it, not only with Tesla now, but 3 or 4 others, and even some of the OEMs trying to pull out things to go direct to consumers with their new EV lines. It's kind of crazy. So the biggest thing we got to focus on is how we build our brand up into these channels as we go out there, so we build long-term success on these mediums. So I'll bring up the polls again here. Somehow I just lost my side of things. Give me 1 sec to pull it back up. But where are you currently advertising on? Check all of that apply on here. Where are you currently making investments as a whole today as you're looking out on here? Here's a few of the top digital providers, we'll call it, out there. Amazon has some OTT stuff. It's not just about, advertising on there. So if you're advertising on their network, trying to get to fires and everything else, you have Pinterest, Snapchat, Microsoft, obviously display and PPC, Google as well, Meta, TikTok. And then if you're using other stuff that you're seeing out there, write it in. We'd love to see kind of where you're thinking about using to get to market. Let's give everybody a couple more seconds here. All right, awesome. I'm going to end the poll and we'll share this out again. So obviously overwhelming amount of people, which is shocking to me, on Meta. We're testing LinkedIn right now too. Cool. That's another, I think, really important medium long-term on stuff. We got Google. I'm pretty sure almost everybody, but we have seen budgets drastically reduce on there. Especially, I think Google did a couple really nice things for businesses, I'll call it. They really beefed up organic and the organic ability on Google with a lot of the local pack information and things that you could do to connect on there. We're seeing a lot of things that used to be spent on Google on brand terms for that kind of get reshifted over in other areas. And I think, people are finding their way through Google, but Google obviously is still, intent-based. We know that's high area. Microsoft as well. See a lot of stuff on Microsoft, people on TikTok as well. That's shocking to see kind of some of this stuff, which is great. We got some TikTok, Pinterest, Snapchat, Amazon's. Like I said, some other people are writing in other results as well. So again, there's a lot of choice out there. These are probably some of the core choices that we see out there. But the fact is 91% of people of the US population can be reached across these 5 channels, right? Which really are 4 main platforms. You got Meta, which includes Instagram and Facebook, Snapchat, Pinterest, and TikTok, owned by 3 other entities. But the fact is that this is a discovery. These are discovery platforms. And what's really nice about this is how you can open up your reach, your frequency, and really drive into people that are in market that your competitors don't even know they're in market for yet. but there are signals on here of planning and what they're doing and things they're talking about and ways that these people are getting tracked by these platforms. In general, we'll talk a lot about the marketing mix on how to kind of go about some of this, but the fact is that majority of the population is logging in here daily, and they're sitting there idle, kind of just being ready to be served educational content or things of interest or things they get discovered that they didn't know before. And I would say, especially with the EV revolution coming on, there's a ton of opportunity to educate. I still think that there's a lot of opportunity to rebrand, especially to new audiences and up and coming audiences that are out there. And many people have shifted, especially during the pandemic. People that weren't moms are now moms. I mean, being forced inside caused a lot of new baby booms to come, right? That changes a shift in going from a sedan to maybe a small SUV to a large SUV, right? So we'll talk a little bit about what that looks like. And you can't discount, obviously, I think they say TikTok, an average TikTok user is like 8 hours or something on there, which is nuts when you look at this. But remember, this is not about a single channel. What I see here is people are testing and doing different things, which is great. You have to have a marketing mix. And so we're going to talk a little bit about each channel. We're going to go through this with you so you can help kind of go through it. But when we look at things, this is the pros and cons, right? So what we want to look at here, Facebook, Instagram, King Kong, when it comes down to things in terms of reach, right? 250 million, there's 330 million United States citizens, we'll call it, right? I would argue that, almost a third of them are under 18 and unadvertisable. The rest of them are pretty much on Facebook and Instagram, whether you log in daily, weekly, monthly, whatever the case is, but this is driving it. And I would say out of all the platforms, they are the king of getting you to go down something, take action, go out, read something, right? They were a news feed for a reason, come back, take more action, and go from there. So they create high engagement of getting people to kind of browse your website, look at what's going on, and start building that conversation along the way. So done a really great job. Snapchat really started off a lot, on texting back and forth. It's really opened up in a whole new areas. What they're doing here, they have the ability to do dynamic vehicle ads as well, just like Facebook. Actually, the platform's eerily scary on how they built it, on what you can do with Snapchat. Now, we'll talk a little bit more on this, but younger demographic. We'll kind of get into what type of vehicles you want to think about putting there, but there's a big audience, and this audience that's on there is starting to spend a lot of money. They're coming up in age, and they're making a lot more money, and they're very liquid in terms of spend. You have Pinterest, right? 100 million monthly active users on here. Very female focused. 52% of US adult Pinterest users have a household income of over 100,000. So if you've got highline SUVs specifically, or any SUV in this case, that's pretty much a third row. They start at 50 grand and go up from there. EVs even, right? There's a lot of shift to this. People that are very focused on eco-friendly side of things. They're sitting here. They're ready to be kind of communicated with. TikTok, right? 128 million and growing. This thing continues to grow. It's one of the fastest growing platforms out there. They have inventory ads as well. All of these have inventory ads as you look at it. So you can extend your inventory out. But I didn't mention about Pinterest. Pinterest is the only one. It's new car only. They don't support used yet. But TikTok, Snapchat, and Facebook all support new and used when you look at this, right? And then a lot of them all have the ability. TikTok, we're in beta right now for actual sales attribution as well. And so that's the other key piece of a lot of this is how can we make sure that we're getting sales attribution data up and seeing what's working and what's not. Linda asked, do we know if Pinterest is adding pre-owned in the future? It could be coming. We're not testing that actively right now. It is something that they've talked about doing, but Pinterest is very much big, fresh brand, freshness of things, right? So they really, for the brand alignment, I think it fits a lot more with new right now. Used probably will come over the time. I know it's something we've talked about. I just don't think they're at a spot where they've really put that together yet. Typical auto strategy when you just look at this, right? Who's in market, who's not in market, who's ready to purchase, who's not, right? We have these kind of things. So we follow this path, know you, trust you, choose you when we come in. We know that, again, people are going to be looking around, trying to identify where to buy their car. You're going to come up and down in some of these areas, right? And do you have to be at all the touch points? That's up to you. But the fact is that there's a road along the way here that we need to be able to control that. And again, the beauty of an automotive franchise dealer, particularly, or independent dealership, for that matter, is you're local. You only have to control 7, 10, 12 zip codes. Think about an endemic that has 45,000 zip codes, or a brand that has to go across 45,000 zip codes. Carvana, 45,000 zip codes. You have 12 zip codes in most cases that you're trying to control. So your budget goes a long way when you're going in there, and it's really can be really honed in on there. And this to me is a cohesive strategy to deploy out there. So let's ask one more question here. Are you currently running any why buy here's or any awareness type ads across your channels today? And quick engagement too. Thanks so much. You guys are right on this. So thanks for the participation. It's always great when you're on the other side, not to be just talking to a screen in general. So thank you for that. I'm seeing a lot of you guys saying yes. 77% of you actually are saying yes, we are. 23 or not. Definitely important. You got to, one thing I love about working with automotive dealers, the brand stories are amazing, right? The local people behind them, the reasons that we should work with you are there. Unfortunately, they're buried a lot of times on an about us page, and no one ever gets to see the actual real side of things, or maybe it's an interior page. It's not really broadcast out on there. So again, I really look at the story and unpack that. People like to do business with people that they like and they trust, right? And so what we want to do out there is really start focusing on content in this awareness stage, you know, what we're doing, why they should buy, who we are, you know, really just getting our community to know about us, right? It happens over a period of time. These are just good things. So people walking around town go, man, yeah, these companies are great people. Behind the scenes stuff, right? We want to get them engaged with who we are. They might not be in market to buy a car right now, but eventually they will be in market to buy a car. And we want to make sure that whether they're in market or they're not in market, people are knowing who we are. So this is very much like broadcast TV out there. You can dedicate a portion of your budget, really bring them in, create that human connection that you're trying to look for, especially post-COVID. People want to get back to dealing business with people, especially face-to-face. Awareness audiences, right? So you could take those website visitors 180 days, you could target around your dealership, you could even load in third-party data if you want to target, you know, and get more specific to only talking to in-market shoppers. There's all sorts of things you can do on here, but definitely, look at that. Now, when you're looking at this isn't about leads right now. This isn't about going out there and dropping leads. This is about building our reach, our impressions, our frequency. We're trying to build a brand. We're making sure we're branding on the top level, okay? And so a portion of your budget should be going there to go out and help you do this. And in fact, when you do these types of campaigns, they actually lower your overall cost per lead. I know it sounds weird, but it actually lowers it because people start engaging with you, and then they're more likely to convert later on when they see your ads, especially around a product or service. Let's go into the next one. Are you guys currently running automotive ads? Let's just see here. I think I'm doing something, still sharing on that one, which is why that's not letting me go. Are you currently running automotive inventory ads? I would guess that this is probably going to be a resounding yes. I'm going to just stop the poll now because yeah, there's not a single person that's not, right? Like that's one of your most powerful weapons. I would say your people are probably your most powerful weapon, but for the consumer, the most powerful weapon you have is the size and selection of the inventory that you have in general, right? And that's a huge part that's always moving, that's always conversational, it's always something that should be going out there. Again, a lot of what we see here when we get into inventories, people are putting it on Facebook only when there's a lot of other reach that can happen. So think about other platforms like TikTok and Snapchat and Pinterest of an extension of kind of what happens on Facebook into new audiences, a lot of net new reach into different types of audiences. And you could really be thinking about things too in this side of it, where you're using your inventory side to get your model line information, pushing, you know, custom vehicle order information, all of those types of things as well. There's more than just like the vehicle of, you know, the inventory carousel ads that we're used to. What are the other ways that we can really, you know, engage people around our inventory? It could be segmenting that inventory either, right? Taking SUVs and putting those only on Pinterest, taking under $25,000 vehicles, putting them out into Snapchat and really thinking about that up and coming buyer that's going to buy 7 or 8 cars from us, right? Really looking at that. So again, you could go in here, look at your website visitors 30 days, exclude certain people who filled out things, right? There's all different ways that you could build this up, but now you're starting to focus on your clicks, your cost per click, your click-through rate, your messenger campaigns and conversions that could be happening, your landing page views, right? And then the last part here is, are you guys running lead ads, right? Are you guys running things around generating lead ads at that point, right? Are you guys, turning around and asking someone on the platform where they're at if they'd like to, interact with you? And again, it's okay if you're not sure or not. You can just put that on here. We may be using terms that you might not know exactly how things are running, which is totally fine. And I'll just go ahead and share this last part on here. But 56% say yes, and the rest of you guys say no or unsure, right? And this is another key component, something worth testing on here. We'll talk about kind of what that looks like a little bit, but those leads are going to be really about your website lead, pushing lead ad directly off the platform as well. This is really going to be back on like, here's the stuff you're really interested in, vehicles they've just looked at, retargeting them, trying to get them back in, keep that eye candy in there. We're also, doing things right, like trying to get people into our service bay. There's a lot of folks that are local to you that own a on-brand vehicle, we'll call in this case, like with Power Ford, that own a Ford that didn't buy from Power Ford. How do we get them back in? They're only going to buy a car every 4 to 7 years, we'll call it, but we know they have to service their car at least once a year. So how can we bring those people back in and make sure that we become the chosen dealer for them in general, right? And so it doesn't have to just be inventory related, but we could be working on things to attract people through our service lanes and other areas as well. So in these cases, again, it could also be people that bought a car from you and haven't serviced, and they should have, and you've been sending them direct mail, you've been sending them email. A lot of times they're just not seeing it anymore on their emails, winding up in spam. Direct mail is just getting thrown out even before it makes it in the house, but they are going to log into social media. And so we could take your audiences that you would normally target there and sync those up to social media and target those folks as well. So that allows you to really go out and do that. Again, there's all sorts of different ways to target here, but here's a few that's on there. And then we've got like conversion leads and stuff that go in as well, where we could take those inventory ads, we could drive them to either your website, or that Facebook also offers where you could drive them to a hosted dealer page. And I would test that, right? Test between the two areas. What we see between driving them to Facebook is you'll get 4 times more in-market shoppers to actually engage with the Facebook because it's super fast, it's zero friction. Your conversions might not be as high as you want them to be, but you're going to get a lot of intent. And then you could build an audience off of that and retarget. So there's a lot of really cool things you could do with building up audiences and determining who's there. But also, I always say your website's one of the most important assets you've ever invested in. You could drive people there. It's got a lot more detail than a Facebook will ever be able to serve for you. It'll go in, it'll interact with all different areas, right? So you can have your trade tools, everything else that come up. But there are things like, lead ads that you can do directly in line as well. So some of these platforms, TikTok supports it, Facebook supports it, Snapchat even supports this, where we can actually drive people who have looked at vehicles already on your website, didn't convert, and we can bring them back over on Facebook and try to convert them as well in a place that they might feel more comfortable converting. Also, Facebook's really good with the golden rule of advertising or marketing, right? First and foremost, I always say a confused mind does one thing, and that's nothing, right? So when they come to a VDP page and there's 17 buttons to click, they just don't click any of them because they don't know what to do. Facebook, if you watch the true marketing platforms, will never present more than one call to action at any given time based on what you're doing. So in this case here, it's either, go in and get information, or go to your messenger, go to wherever, but you're not seeing 40 different things. We're not asking to get a trade or get financing or check availability we're picking one call to action. If that doesn't work, we can rotate the call to action on the next one and say, great, let's check availability on this one, right? But then they don't convert on that. Maybe it's like get an e-price, right? We can look at what you do online, but we take different cracks and we just try to get people that are very warmed up. They're on your site. Remember, your website is the most important in-market indicator that we have. We have technology that can integrate, that's cookieless now, that brings signal back to life so that we can retarget all those shoppers across all these different platforms, right? Including Google, including Microsoft. I know right now we're talking heavy on social, but we have tooling that builds all of that stuff out. And so that can really allow you to reach more of these folks that are in market and really pick up the people that are on your website That technology also works for people that are in your DMS and CRM to sync that back up online and start talking to those users and actioning that. So in this case here, we're definitely looking at what's our lead cost, right? What's our close rates? What's our sale rate? And the beauty of a lot of these platforms we showed you, they support what's called offline attribution, where we can take your sold data, send it back into, let's say, Meta or TikTok, and they'll come back and self-report on unit sales that came back from the ads that were seen prior to the event timestamp of them buying a vehicle, right? So it helps us understand. And then they give you windows, like did they do that within 1 day or 7 day or 30 days, 28 days of them, seeing that ad, right? So it really helps our media teams be able to take better actions on that. But these are things that are available to you. So we just want to let you know what's available in there. Let's talk about like quick framework, how we can go about doing this. This features South County CDJR or DCJR. Really great partner of ours. Alan's been with us for a long time. We thank him for his partnership on here. But it's like, how do we go in and help Alan sell more cars, right? So we got to pick the platforms. We got to select the budget. How do we go in and create the messaging, identifying those resources, get all that technical setup? I would say that 90% of online advertising at this point is technically getting the attribution, the pixel, the cookieless environments now. It's gotten very difficult to set up. You have to change DNS records. You have to do a lot more now to get your digital ads running. And so, switching vendors is going to become more time consuming. And I will tell you, there's a lot of risk at that of them kind of changing the signal depth over on that. So I think at this point, it's finding someone. I hear a lot of things about CDPs. I think a lot of partners out there, have good technology. I think it's still not mature enough yet. So I'd make sure that you really start working through with partners that have a good handle on what's going on there, right? And understanding what the possibilities are, and hopefully they're building their own tech inside as well. So in this case here, we want to look at things like, what can we do with these platforms when we're trying to pick with them? Are they getting local? Or do they have zip code targeting or just DMA targeting? Are they able to prospect and retarget? Can we actually measure results? The reason we like social so much is because you could do almost all of it across all platforms, and you get a really nice cool toolkit where many of these OTT providers, they might be able to measure foot traffic, but can't measure sales. I like to measure down to what's actually the key indicator for us to make investments on. Is that's, am I selling cars, right? That a lot of time comes up. We get that question all the time is, am I selling cars? You obviously know, are you increasing or decreasing? But that's good to know. It's really important to know what's driving and what's helping to aid into that so that we can lever down and I can ask you for more money to sell more cars, right? That's ultimately the ratio you're trying to figure out. I don't think anybody in the smart mind says, oh, I'm going to sell more cars for less money all the time. There comes to a breakage point. If you want to sell more cars, you have to raise budget. The biggest issue is most people scratch their head not knowing where to put the money and figure out how to scale that up. So we've created some tooling. You could try this out for free on here, where you can plug in your site or your competitors. It doesn't matter. It should be very similar because obviously you're in the same market, so the data will come back pretty similar. But if you want to see how many total people are reachable across these platforms, it's very difficult to get this type of data. We also have a benchmarking system that looks at over 2,000 accounts and ties that back into here. Facebook accounts only on automotive that is building these metrics on what is possible for click-through rates, for conversion rates, close ratios, and kind of set some standards on what should be there, right? So it's a good area to make sure that we have some conversations so that as a dealer, you have information that you can talk to your media companies with, right? The other side is, and I call that top-down planning. The other side is another tool we have, which is called bottom-up planning, which is taking your inventory and running it through a system that algorithmically breaks down what vehicles classify and are best to push out to each medium and recommend budgets based on kind of what you should be doing from an inventory perspective out there, right? We obviously have Google vehicle ads now and vehicle listings and MSN and Microsoft AIA ads. But how do you right-size stuff to build a media strategy around that? Figure out too, like what's going on with your electric vehicles versus your hybrids versus your ICE vehicles versus new and used, right? So each of those things, we want to analyze your inventory and really have that drive a lot of your media plan on where to get started and what to go around. Because obviously we want to drive more people. If you have a ton of a certain vehicle set, we want to drive more people through that now that we have more inventory volume back up. It's not all about custom orders anymore, although that still is working very well. And a lot of consumers are actually really enjoying the custom order process, which is really great. So we like seeing that. Create messaging. A lot of things for messaging is have fun with it. And this is the dumbest thing. Being a little bit older, I'll call it. I'm not 20 years old anymore, and I'm not fresh out of college. When I saw the use of emojis driving higher engagement, it was kind of like, yeah, right, that's not a thing. I've been wrong so many times. When our copywriters add emojis and have fun and do things on there, it breaks up the copy. It looks better for the user on what they're used to on these platforms. It works well. Be unique. Make sure you're helping to really define your brand tone and story and everything else. And again, a lot of this stuff you already have in your Google reviews that can be pushed out onto here. You have it on your website and About Us page. It's about aggregating a lot of that data up. And I say it's no good. No good marketing is just sitting there that one person sees. Great marketing is when thousands of people see that same message. It's just the law of ratio at that point, that there's going to be only so many people that engage with it, but not 100% of people will ever engage with an ad. So you got to amplify those great things out to more people. Make sure that you're working with team members right now. Right now, I would tell you, I know I saw Jay Healy on here. Jump on. Jay, we've done some case studies with, and they actually helped us launch the Pinterest, first ever Pinterest automotive inventory ads globally. They've done a phenomenal job. Jay's got a whole content team inside, and they do phenomenal. Follow them organically. Go check out Healy Brothers. They have multiple stores up in the Northeast. They're content machines, but what we do is we help them amplify the content too that matters, and tell the story and meet the moments of truth and go from there. And they're doing such a phenomenal job getting their teammates, the people that are experts on this, that want to have fun and build up their brands along the way. So they're embracing their employees and really going out there and building just amazing content that's being shared out. They happen to be building some new dealerships as well, and they're bringing people along the ride with it. And I think the engagement's really coming to life with that. So we call it bring your own video, right? It's how to get people involved. It's not about dancing on TikTok all day, although people want to see the human side of your business as well. And then don't forget that OEM content. They have a lot of stuff in their ad planners that could be used to supplement in there, but don't rely exclusively on that. The power of your people, the power of your local brand's a lot more important in many, many cases. Now, here's the worst part. There's a lot of stuff if you're doing this to get technically set up. Now, we've created some resources as well on our website that you can pull down. We'll probably be sending out links here as well. But if you want to learn on kind of how to do the playbooks on some of these, there's a lot of little things you got to do to get this stuff set up. But the details matter. I'm telling you, this is very technical that comes in. It's a reason we in 2017, 18 started building an entire tech company and team and license our technology out to other vendors and partners out in the space, is because this was a very difficult part to get set up, and it's only getting more and more complicated with the new rules and regulations that are coming down. But the goal is we call it plumbing, get all your plumbing working well. Your most important thing is focus on the story, the narrative, right? Doing a really great job. And a lot of your story is your inventory mix, what people want to buy, the pricing, all of that stuff. That's where you're experts. So let us take all of that, amplify it, and then ultimately drive more people through what's going on there. So when we look at this, again, here's some examples of some dealer stuff, awareness ads, why buys coming in here, looking at large selection of inventory, really taking a look at, hey, we're here to be family owned and operated. We have aggressive pricing. We have a service department, like whatever your messages are, getting out there and making sure people are aware of those different things. Most people don't know, do you have a body shop? Do you not have a body shop? And people do care about family owned and operated businesses. I know cars.com, I just saw them put out a thing about, the American Index, about people doing business with, paying more money to do business locally at this point. I think shop local is a really big thing that's coming back, especially post-COVID. I see a lot of it, really driving in. We need to make sure we're reaching people, letting people know. Obviously, things like we've been out there, letting people know, hey, we need inventory still. Part of the thing that I loved about COVID is dealers got really smart and they started buying off the street a lot more instead of focusing just on auction. And it might be a little bit more time and effort, but I think we're getting some really good deals off the street. And here's an ad where you can basically say, hey, I know you're looking for some cars. So if you want to shop cars, great. But we're also looking to buy cars too. So if that's something that you need to do is get rid of your car and buy something, we'll help you out throughout the way, right? So making sure that you have this. And again, what's great about social is you're not running one ad. Most of our dealers are running 70 to 200 ads simultaneously to micro segments of what's happening on there. Really thinking about conversational advertising, we call it, right? Having the right message to the right user at the right time, delivering that out, telling different folks different things around them in general. It's really great. Here again, South County CHR showcasing out a lot of the vehicles that someone's looked at right now. Look, again, saying, are you still interested? These are people that have looked at these vehicles. They may have looked for 3 or 4 of these Jeeps, telling them they're still in stock, but now let's try to get them engaged in our either messenger or our lead ad side to try to get them engaged with our sales teams. Proof works, right? I love this too. People are coming in here on the left-hand side with Hunt Auto. Love this commercial. They targeted moms and they went after it, letting them know, hey, this new Explorer is amazing for moms. And they're like, you can shop it directly inside of Facebook, or I'm sorry, inside of TikTok. There's a TikTok ad. I'm sorry about that. So now you've got a dynamic inventory coming of all the Explorers in there where people can then go directly to your website and shop on that. And getting massive reach. You can see they generate 602 leads, $31 cost per lead, 115 sales match to that, which is just insane. And again, they're power the people going out there. People are, they're explaining things, they're getting out there, they're being helpful. That's really, really amazing. You can see on the right-hand side, we're taking advantage of rolling footage from the OEM, getting it out on mass reach on here, putting it out into Pinterest and really getting coverage a lot further, reaching the new buyers that they were missing out on before. They've opened up a whole new set of buyers by reaching out on that side. So we've got 11 free resources to give you guys here. If you guys want to, do stuff on your own, work with your current agencies in many ways. There's a lot of stuff in here. We're a big fan. I always call it open sourcing our agency. We want to share what's working. There's things that if you have in-house teams, great. You should do a lot of things on your own. I think the biggest thing that in-house teams should focus on is content. What's our story? What's our narrative? Who are our key people? What's our content schedule look like? How do we get it out there? But don't just focus on organic. Make sure you're building with moments of truth in mind, right? We know about this from Google. They talked about the 5 moments that matter. You got to be thinking about that and applying that proactively to your funnels and how people are looking at this, right? And so we're doing that through not only just inventory, but a lot of different types of ads, as you saw here. So I'm going to open up questions and answer here. If you haven't already asked anything and want to ask, feel free to ask me anything in the chat right here. I'll ask our marketing team to bubble up anything back to me that I've missed so far. So I have it right and handy on here, but I will take some questions and answers on this side. Hopefully you found some knowledge that's in here that will help you guys go out there and either work with your current partners or your in-house teams and understand what you can do, or at least validate some of the things and, and go from there. I'd love to know from your standpoint, what's one nugget that you learned along the way? If you wouldn't mind, go ahead and put it in the chat and just say, hey, Pete, this is one thing, or I love this one ad that I saw on there. I want to do that for my dealership. Love to just see what's one thing that you walked away from here. Hopefully there's one thing that you liked and that you could potentially implement. All right. See question here. Hey, what's the most common Oracle audiences you see being used? Want to make sure we're using those in our ads. It's a great question. I mean, and again, it really depends on what the business challenge is, right? So we use different audiences based on different areas. It could be the fact of, we're targeting people with children across areas, right? Because we want to go after people who have more than 2 kids or 3 kids, because we know they have to go into a 3rd row SUV. That's a very key type of audience there. We could be looking at people who have, obviously they have in market. I personally love owner data, right? So part of Oracle is Polk data. You get Oracle supplies the Polk owner data through that. So when you look at it, again, easy campaign that you do is you take everybody you know about, right? Take your CRM and you upload and say, here's all the people who bought cars from us. And then you say, don't target those people. And then you bring in the Oracle list from Polk of like all the people that own, let's just say Ford Explorers in your area. You're going to get people who didn't buy from you, right? And then you geo-target that. So you only target, you'll find that you might only have 30% of the total vehicles that are in market that have come through your dealership. So how do we reach the other 70%, right? We can do that. We can reach them now through that audience. And maybe at that point, we could try to sell them a car. But I'm a huge fan at that point of doing oil change specials, doing even $9.98 oil change specials to those types of folks and trying to get them in the door and win them over with the service lane. I know it's a loss leader, but these are things that get those audiences engaged back in, come in. And we just reinvite them into the store because most likely somewhere along the way, we lost the deal for whatever reason the first time around. Let's get them in and show them our dealership, get them introduced with our people. And the worst part I've seen with most of that, just a little rant here, is that if I'm a Ford shop and I lost that local shopper, the unfortunate part is they probably went 70, 80 miles and bought a vehicle somewhere else, and they're in my backyard. But the problem is they don't come back to me for oil changes. They go to the Jiffy Lube, or they go to Costco, or they go to the Quick Lane. And we're losing a ton of market share to those Quick Lane services because we're not re-inviting them back in and saying, hey, it doesn't matter if you bought a car somewhere else. We want to help service you, right? And so forget about just the we service any make and model. It's really about, serving our on-brand customers and making sure we build loyalty with our branded customers, because we know for most cases, a branded customer is going to come back from loyalty and buy another one of those vehicles. We want to make sure the next vehicle comes from us. So again, that's just something that I love, and how we use Oracle in some of the ways. Hopefully it gave you some inspiration on that. Jenna says, going to look at Healy Bros, definitely recommend. I mean, again, I can give you a laundry list of folks, but I really feel like, Jay's team up there has done a phenomenal job. They have a great team internally that's been just producing video. Jay's a rock star when it comes to it as well. And, he's been a lot of fun to work with. But, again, big thing is, build up a network of other dealers, share some of that stuff out. We'll probably share some of the best. I think we actually have on one of the resources here, examples of top TikTok ads, examples of that. I'm pretty sure Molly has posted some of that. So you can see, she's already got it in here. So full video on this page. Do you think it's running Pinterest ads when you have limited new car inventory? So again, custom order campaigns, that's what Healy ran a ton of. They had a lot of success with it. So even if you don't have something and you can sell it, there's an opportunity there, right? Because it's new car focus. You don't just have to run inventory ads. You can run, custom order ads, to go in there. So you can still run, hey, this is the hottest vehicle or two that we sell. We are taking custom orders. We give you the best price, but also we help you truly customize that to your experience. So, every deal, if you're not strong on inventory, your value add could be, let us help you completely customize and configure your one-off car, and it won't cost you a dime more than taking an off-the-shelf cookie cutter car that came off the line. Like, that's just a simple campaign that you can use to your advantage. So for every weakness, there is a strength to it, and that's what you want to try to figure out in general. But yeah, Pinterest, if you have large SUVs, you're selling, if your core audience for that is moms, I'll tell you, you should definitely be on there. So I think every brand has, minivans in a lot of cases, like they sell to moms. I don't know many. I mean, I do see a lot of dads driving minivans right now, but the large SUVs are also what's there, and even small SUVs, don't discount it. Moms, especially first stage moms. I know I grew out of it. Unfortunately, we started out with the little, littler mid-sized, SUVs, and had to graduate very quickly into the large third rows, which I didn't like the price tag on. Should we put the same ad spend across all campaigns, i.e. awareness, consideration, conversion, or put more in one versus the other? That's a great question. It's definitely different in a lot of different stages, right? And again, it depends on how you're setting the campaign up. So it's not a one size fits all. And a lot of times, obviously, when you're out talking to a large audience like prospecting, you're spending a lot more money there. And so, again, inventory ads are great for one reason, because the way inventory ads work is you lasso an area and you say, hey, if anybody's in this market for a vehicle that looks like anything that I sell or have in my catalog, then show them my cars and direct them to me. And that works if you have the right inventory that the market's looking for right now. But in the case before where someone mentioned that they didn't have inventory, can't really use those ads, right? So it just depends on what you're trying to build up and what you're trying to do there. So anything prospect related, if you're trying to build more brand, you're going to move more to the top of the funnel. And then all these smaller micro campaigns don't cost a lot of money. Retargeting is so inexpensive when it comes down to it. And so what we like to do is measure the full funnel total cost of everything. But specifically, when we're looking at each area of that funnel and what it's designed to do, we want to make sure we're making the right metrics matter so that we can build brand, build reach, as well as, obviously conversion. So we follow what's called a full funnel strategy. So when we do our reporting, everything's into a central funnel. You can see everything on there. It just helps you understand your total blend at that point. But that's where strategy comes in, and really working on what specifically is going on with your dealership, running through those tools, analyzing everything, and then coming up with a strategy across that. It's a great question. Let's see, would it be beneficial to make ads in Pinterest that focus on the dealer, not the car, as a way to get around the only? Absolutely. That's a great, brilliant way, Juan. If you're not, don't have new cars, or if you're an independent dealer, I'm just telling you, inventory ads, if you just want to take your inventory and syndicate it up, that one ad format is new car only. You could do everything else on that. And again, storytelling is the key right now to connecting on social, right? And I'm sure you've seen it. You've been hooked into something. But yeah, showing your dealership, showing what's going on, showing testimonials, those are all critical things. Again, you could be doing a video of the top, SUVs that you just sourced right now and posting that week on there and getting reach out to people that are in market. They do have indicators. Nice part about Pinterest is they actually have Oracle data built directly in. So they have in-market indicators. They even have their own indicators. And if you don't know what Pinterest, there's a search engine box. So it's very much like Google combined with Facebook all in one. There's a lot of search intent that comes in there and people looking for specific products and services. So huge area to be able to do that. What did you mean by data-driven decision-making? So for me, there's a lot of points on that. The first data point I look at is your inventory. I look at your market. So those two campaigns are two tools I showed you way back when, where you can see one where it shows you what your market looks like. And then the other one shows me what your dealership inventory looks like. Those are two data parts that I would look at. Once we start running ads, we're able to use data to tell us, are we benchmarking properly or not compared to what we know we can get. So we call it SOEs, right? Standard of excellence. We know in automotive how much a lead should cost for a used car, for new car. We know how much a click should cost for these types of campaigns. So our system and our team is always looking at those metrics to make sure that we're making sure we're optimal for that. So we're not wasting it. And if a campaign's not working in your market, we're going to let you know this isn't going. So again, we like to, use our creativity, use our opinions in a lot of ways, but these social platforms are the largest survey tool in the world, and they give you real data by people that like, click, share, do those things. And if we're not getting engagement, it doesn't matter what I think about it. The data is telling us that we need to adjust. So I try to use data wherever we can to at least, make some educated choices on there in general. But we could start a lot with your market data, what's available, your inventory, obviously knowing unit sales, your goals. Those are all data points, right? Of like, hey, we're number 3 in our region. We want to be number 1. We're at 72 units now. We need to be at 94 in order to get that. Then we analyze your market and see who's getting that. How do we get towards those cars and go from there, right? All right, awesome, guys. I've got to go. It's 2:00 now. I'd be happy if you have any questions whatsoever. My email's directly on here, pete@dealersunited.com. My cell phone's right there. Feel free to text me. I literally talk and text to people all the time. I love what we do. If you can't tell through my passion on here, and if you need to just bounce questions through it, whether it's now or 20 minutes or 2 hours or 10 days from now, you have my contact information. Our team's here if you need anything. We have a ton of resources if you want to just, poke around and take a look at it. We try to publish as much data as we possibly can, but I really do thank you for taking an hour out of your day to spend it with us. Thank you so much for showing up today. Hopefully you got some information out of here. We look forward to seeing you guys shortly. Talk to you soon. Thanks so much. Have a great day.